Today, we delve into an almost unbelievable tale that is upending everyone's preconceived notions. Imagine a voice in 2025 cutting through the chilly December air. Calm but stern, with the kind of power that only a self-made billionaire possesses. In order to deliver this moment, Tyler Perry, a man who created his company from the ground up, didn't hide behind a polished PR line or a press release. Rather, he immediately went to his own radio program and delivered a message that quickly spread across Montecito. "You owe me a big chunk of change, Harry and Meghan." Like that, all pressure, no warning, no filter. "You too owe me a big chunk of change, Meghan and Harry, that loan for your mansion in Montecito. I will be forced to take this to court if it is not repaid within 30 days. According to reports, everyone was taken aback by his tone, which was direct, severe, and devoid of warmth. "I'll have to take this to court if that loan for your mansion isn't repaid in 30 days. The words did not simply fall. They went viral in the media. The seamless picture of the Sussex American dream suddenly came apart, not simply cracked. People were misled for years into believing that two royals had left to pursue their own goals of financial independence and freedom. The world witnessed opulent residences, flashy Netflix deals, and enormous contracts coming in from California. However, as Perry's warning lingered in the early headlines of 2026, a new picture began to take shape. That so-called independence began to appear precarious, as if it had been largely dependent on influential Hollywood connections that were now gradually withdrawing one by one at precisely the right moment, coming to collect. And it feels genuine this time. Don't merely speak. The 30-day clock isn't just a rumor. A public foreclosure auction on their most valuable asset, their own mansion, could result from this difficult deadline. Money isn't the only factor in the path that brought them to this point, as they are facing pressure from one of their most powerful former partners. Beyond that, it goes deeper. This is about a friendship that was destroyed when it collided with a $16 million wall. Perry was a true lifesaver when the pair abruptly relocated from Canada to Los Angeles back in 2020. At a time when they said they were vulnerable and in danger, he opened his $18 million Beverly Hills estate, providing not only luxury but also strong security. Perry later clarified that his assistance was motivated by empathy, stating that he wanted to assist them because he knew what they were going through. However, insiders are now speaking, and behind closed doors, the story sounds very different. Beyond simply providing a place to stay, such generosity continued. Perry reportedly provided significant support once more as the couple hurried to secure their ideal Montecito property. We are discussing a $14 million friendship loan intended to bridge the difference and expedite the transaction. Everything was based on trust, a handshake driven by their powerful post-royal image and significant upcoming agreements. But when money gets ugly in Hollywood, trust swiftly erodes. Perry's enthusiasm completely changed by the beginning of 2026. It's all business now, no more protectors. When asked if he could assist them in settling in, Perry remained calm and straightforward in an interview with the Sunday Times. "I didn't. California is Meghan Markle's home state. She is familiar with the scene, the atmosphere, and the flow of events. However, nothing could have prepared them for this kind of icy reaction, even with that home advantage. No lawsuit could ever have the same impact as that abrupt dismissal." Since the pair allegedly ceased receiving Perry's calls for payback, which insiders claim was due by the end of 2024, there are now widespread suspicions that Perry is entirely done, checked out, finished with the matter. A billionaire seeking his money isn't the only issue at hand. It penetrates reputation and trust more deeply. Your word is crucial in a place like Hollywood. It is your actual money. A significant change in how they are perceived behind closed doors is indicated if someone like Tyler Perry, who supported them while pressure was intense and public opinion was shifting, is now publicly criticizing them with ultimatums. That polished narrative of independence is beginning to look fragile, more like a series of back-and-forth agreements with influential people. Big stars, producers, and tech executives are all connected to an unforgettable network. Additionally, the pressure mounts quickly as interest continues to grow, bringing that $14 million closer to $16 million. Even royal titles don't seem to be able to help the couple out of their current financial predicament. And that's only the beginning of the cracks. Built like a fortress, the $14.65 million estate was intended to represent the pinnacle of a new beginning. It was a private haven away from royal inspection, boasting 9 bedrooms, 16 bathrooms, a tennis court, and a rose garden with a view of the Pacific. However, something much less steady was subtly taking place beneath that bright vision. The property is beginning to resemble a financial black hole that is drawing everything in rather than a dream house. A $9.5 million mortgage is shown in public records, but that is simply the tip of the iceberg. Property taxes in Montecito alone total more than $200,000 annually, and that's not even accounting for other expenses. Then, especially after losing taxpayer-funded coverage, they must pay enormous security fees to maintain the amount of protection they claim they require. According to reports, they spend about $3 million a year merely to keep everything functioning smoothly. Just to keep the lights on, the employees paid, and the gates securely shut requires a significant amount of financial flow. Due to persistent disturbances, even Montecito's neighbors are speaking out. Some have reportedly referred to them as the Montecito Mean Girls or even neighbors from hell. The real pressure appears to be mounting behind the scenes, where it matters most, despite the tremendous public clamor. The home is already drawing criticism from financial experts, some of whom describe it as an unlucky asset that consistently drains more than it replenishes. The maintenance expenses are enormous. There is a genuine risk of natural disasters in the region. Additionally, the estate's size simply raises the cost of everything. Sergey Brin, a Russian billionaire, once owned this property. Additionally, when it was purchased, it appeared to be a daring and self-assured entry into upscale American real estate. However, in 2026, everything feels different, more like a debt-driven risk that is becoming increasingly difficult to handle as interest rates rise and important sources of income begin to decline. How they intend to pay Tyler Perry is not the only important question. It's how they want to keep the mansion intact. The notion of a public auction begins to feel less like a rumor and more like a real possibility that is quickly approaching if borrowing choices remain restricted and financial pressure continues to increase. It's possible that the house they worked so hard to get will be the catalyst for everything to fall apart. The strain is increasing. It feels as though the walls are getting closer. Locals in Montecito are already speculating about who might be the next to inherit the property. While the mansion continues to suck funds on one side, Unveiled, their professional brand, is dealing with an entirely other and equally dangerous tempest. In what appeared to be a calculated move, the group subtly changed its name to Unveiled Philanthropies towards the end of 2025. However, that modification had little effect on regulators' attention. The California Attorney General issued a notice of delinquency back in May 2024, highlighting non-payment of necessary fees and submission of important documents. They dismissed it as merely a lost check. However, the spotlight continued to shine notwithstanding that explanation. Later on, Charity Watch intervened and gave the group a F rating, a serious warning that is difficult to overlook. They brought up grave issues with transparency, such as allegations of an audit that supposedly exists but hasn't been made available for examination. When the numbers are presented, even more issues are raised. According to reports from 2024 and 2025, donations fall to little over $2 million, while expenses surpass $5 million, completely reversing the situation. For a brand that was supposed to rule the world, that kind of swing is enormous. The alleged destination of the funds is what truly sticks out. More than 47% of program expenditures fell into the ambiguous category of other fees for services. In the nonprofit sector, That's a significant amount to leave unaccounted for, which raises even more questions and adds to the increasing list of issues. Critics are not holding back. Some have referred to it as a slush fund associated with an opulent way of living. Supporters fiercely argue that this is simply the reality of working in high-stakes philanthropy, but the gap is growing louder, and now internal whistleblowers are intensifying the conflict. It's difficult to dismiss the stories that have surfaced about a severe internal fallout, with almost 25 staff apparently leaving over the past few years. Every time a description is released, it consistently depicts a workplace where public relations appears to be more important than actual impact, and where public perception and image are prioritized. Such a claim raises serious concerns, particularly in light of reports that indicate the IRS is closely monitoring the handling of monies. The blurring of the boundaries between personal life and foundation operations is receiving more attention. If not managed properly, this might quickly become a serious problem. There are even claims that the mansion itself might be linked to financial benefits associated with the foundation, which, if verified, could have major legal repercussions. For this reason, there are two quite different perspectives on the move to RTUL Philanthropies. Some perceive it as a last-minute attempt to tidy up before the 2026 audits, while others see it as an attempt to streamline and organize. The big transactions that were meant to keep things going are the Hollywood side of the story. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle attracted enormous viewership and interest at the beginning of their reputed $100 million Netflix deal. However, things didn't continue at the same rate following that initial accomplishment. With Love, Meghan, and Heart of Invictus were among the projects that supposedly failed to make it into the top 300 titles in early 2025. Momentum is crucial in Hollywood, and once it slows down, the tone quickly changes. An already difficult scenario that keeps getting worse from every point is now under even greater strain as some industry insiders are using derogatory names and casting doubt on credibility and long-term viability. Similar to Bill Simmons, the term persisted and began influencing how other people in the industry perceived them. Large studios are now more circumspect and hesitate to enter into costly collaborations. In an attempt to quiet the buzz, Netflix officials were forced to publicly refute reports that the company was collapsing by March 2026. Insiders, however, are painting a completely different picture behind the scenes, one that is characterized by conflict, misunderstandings, and mounting annoyance on both sides. The agreement is nearing its conclusion, and what appeared to be a simple renewal is now far from certain. According to reports, Netflix may decide to leave entirely if there isn't a big hit shortly. They are in a difficult situation because royal drama, which they have attempted to distance themselves from, is the one kind of content that the public continues to focus on. It's obviously a catch-22. Every time they visit, they further separate themselves from the familial ties that first make them relevant, even if they require the attention and money that come from those stories. Meghan's lifestyle business, which was supposed to play a significant role in her upcoming chapter, is also encountering difficulties. The company, formerly known as American Riviera Orchard and now known as Ever, debuted with a gentle, neutral aesthetic that several commentators immediately criticized for being uninspiring or unduly simplistic. Nevertheless, her initial product launch, Wildflower Honey and Raspberry Jam, sold out nearly immediately, generating a lot of interest. However, some contend that those sellouts might have been caused by little quantities, a traditional scarcity tactic to create excitement rather than evidence of enormous demand. Furthermore, a growing $16 million pressure point cannot be covered by hype alone. The financial disparity will only widen if the Netflix partnership fails to make As Ever a worldwide retail hit. Their primary source of revenue may vanish if that significant arrangement ends in 2026, putting them under severe financial strain and limiting their options. The early 2025 rebranding from American Riviera Orchard to As Ever, with that same style, was a necessity rather than a haphazard change. The original name encountered trademark opposition almost immediately. The USPTO repeatedly denied the application, citing irregularities and even geographical restrictions that made it difficult to secure the name. It turned out that attempting to transform Santa Barbara's local moniker into a worldwide brand would not be easy. Meghan gave an explanation for the change, stating that she wanted a name that wasn't limited by geography and could expand beyond her backyard. As a result, she returned to As Ever, a name she allegedly obtained back in 2022, which will provide her greater autonomy and flexibility going ahead. Her particular interests, food, gardening, and hosting, are intended to be reflected in the brand itself, which is positioned as a component of her creative direction and lifestyle identity. However, the pricing caused immediate protests once the products were released. We are talking about $21 honey and $13 jars of jam, which made some wonder who this brand is truly intended for. One restaurant owner went so far as to call the prices extreme, implying that they are more targeted at affluent patrons than the general public they frequently discuss. With each release, the discrepancy between messaging and reality becomes more apparent. The criticism doesn't end there. The discussion was further fueled by a $42 fruit spread gift box, which raised questions about whether the brand actually embodies its idea of connection and accessibility. However, it is evident that this is Meghan's big move for 2026. Plans for high-end partnerships, floral arrangements, meditation products, and even hospitality endeavors have already been hinted at. But because the competition isn't going to slow down anytime soon, As Ever is under pressure to demonstrate that it's more than simply a side project disguised as a business in a market already crowded with powerful lifestyle brands. It runs the risk of becoming just another expense on a balance sheet that is already severely strained if it doesn't scale up quickly. Although the As Ever pantry appears pristine and flawless on Instagram, Tyler Perry's billion-dollar enterprise is very different from that image. And it is said that he is the one who is awaiting payment. A new hypothesis is gaining traction among royal watchers as the pressure mounts, and it's generating conversation. According to some insiders, there may be a change in approach in 2026 due to the growing financial strain. And now, everything comes down to this. What started as a story of freedom, power, and independence is now surrounded by questions, pressure, and uncertainty. The image that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry built so carefully is beginning to crack under the weight of reality. A $16 million question, a ticking 30-day deadline, and a powerful figure like Tyler Perry no longer standing beside them, but possibly standing against them. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about reputation, it's about trust, and it's about whether the empire they tried to build can survive what's coming next. Because if the deals don't land, if the brand doesn't scale, and if the pressure keeps rising, then that dream life in Montecito might not just fade, it could collapse publicly. So the real question is this just a rough chapter or the beginning of the end? Drop your thoughts below. Backhand index pointing down. Do you think they'll recover, or is everything about to fall apart? And if you want the truth behind every headline, every leak, and every hidden move, make sure you subscribe and stay locked in, because this story is far from over.